High schoolers in Illinois may soon be required to take a financial literacy course. The state Senate unanimously passed a bill today requiring students to learn the basic concepts of financial literacy and economics. Students would learn about things like supply and demand, budgeting, and taking out a loan. The bill's sponsor says only about 60% of Illinois high schoolers are required to have an option of taking financial literacy.
I like for Illinois to be one of the states to join in ensuring that our young people understand finances, that they do not leave high school, arrive in college, and begin to make poor choices on their financial future.
The bill passed through the State House with near unanimous support. However, the Senate did change the legislation, so now it heads back to the House.